What is up, my fellow fire soldiers? It's me, Kishin. We're back at it again with another Fire Force review. And before we get into this video, I'd just like to say, it'd make my day if we could get this video to 100 likes. If you can't do it for me, at least do it for Fire Force. But anyways, let's dive right into this chapter review. By the despair of mankind, the earth was covered in Adala's black flames. Or in other words, hell's madness. But once everything was lost to despair, there came a ray of light, a hope. And with that ray of hope struck into his chest came a hero. But what exactly was causing this ray of light? And that would be Shinra's soul. Because it was not only through the soul resonance that he was able to even achieve this form in the first place, but when we usually see a soul in Soul Eater and or Fire Force, it is usually surrounded by this same darkness. And the flame that is generated from that soul would cause light within that darkness to appear. And that same light would symbolize the hope in this situation. And after this, we get a cut to this full spread panel of Shinra in his Shinra Bonshoman form. Shinra and Haomei begin to talk. Shinra says, "Let's get a verdict on hope or despair." Haomei responds, "Why won't you realize that your gentle and sweet hope is what makes people suffer? Where there are tears, there's me. It's not so easy just watching people cry." And this is actually very similar to the ending of Soul Eater. Where there is despair, there will always be hope. And where there is madness, there will always be order. With Haomei obviously being the Kishin, she is taking a role just like Azurin, while Shinra is on the side of hope or control in this situation. He would be taking the role of Shinigami, or Kid, because Shinra just became God during his final fight against Haomei, and Kid also just becomes a god during his final fight with his brother Azura. Also, please don't tell me I'm saying Azura, Ashura, or whatever the fuck you want to call it, because I could really care less. And you'll just be wasting your time in the comment section. Outside of my pronunciation mistakes, let's carry on. Haomei tells Shinra to stop this, and then proceeds to attack him with a ferocious barrage of her skyquakes. But unfortunately for her, Shinra then proceeds to tank every single last one of her attacks, including this nuclear-esque explosion. The end of despair is the consensus of humanity, and you're trying to change that. Shinra, surviving that vicious attack, responds, "Quit it already. You're the one who has to stop. Look at this planet. The earth has been immolated by flame. This is not an ending that was achieved by either yours or my actions. It's the unconscious desire of all mankind. These black flames are proof enough, is it not?" Haomei then blasts Shinra, yelling, "That's enough already." Shinra eats this attack and asks, "What? Is this all despair's got?" Sho jumps in, telling Shinra not to get carried away because he's being thoughtless. With Shinra's mom and brother by his side, there is no doubt in his mind that being combined with them, that they should know that there's no possibility of them losing. Cause between despair and hope, of course, hope's gonna win. Haomei continues to barrage Shinra with fireballs. "I'm sure you think so, but this earth is engulfed in black flames. The results speak for themselves, don't they? It's all based on your karma. The results are everything. Seriously, how boring." How boring? What does it matter if it's interesting or not? Shinra responds, "Everything matters on if it's interesting or not. Sho and Mom, I finally got to find the people close to me, and I finally managed to catch them." Meanwhile, Arthur and Captain Shinmon were both aware of how fun this world was. And this would be due to how both Arthur and Benimaru perceive the world. They aren't like the rest of humanity because they don't follow the general consensus of humanity. Meaning the way that they look at the world and the way that they live their lives is different from everyone else's. While Soul Eater is about maintaining the status quo and the order of society, Fire Force is doing the exact opposite. Fire Force is about breaking that status quo and the general consensus that society has developed. I mentioned this before in my Soul Eater X Fire Force video when I explained how the Kishin would be in the story of Fire Force, and you know, the Kishin did end up being in Fire Force. Again, this is basically a situation when the majority of society is following madness rather than maintaining order and having hope. Despite what was happening with the rest of the world in Fire Force, Arthur and Benimaru are two examples of two people who are still able to live their lives and enjoy the world for what it really is, despite how shitty the rest of the world and their viewpoints might be. Fun? I don't believe that. And you're telling me everyone wants to die? I was taught by Captain Shinmon. How do you explain the principle of hysterical strength that lies dormant in humans? Cause if you're okay with dying, your survival instincts wouldn't give you power. Despite humanity wanting to die, they are built to not want to die due to hysterical strength. And this is one of the many contradictions that Shinra points out in Haomei's logic. It's silly to lump instinct and consciousness together. They ain't so much different. God is always full of contradictions, ain't he? Because how could humans want to die if they call upon strength in times of desperation to survive? Neither I nor the evangelist are God. They're a collective existence of human consensus. I'm speaking on behalf of the collective unconsciousness of humanity. Why won't you get it? Haomei's doing this, but she's human. She contradicts herself at times because she is human. She is not perfect. Return to the flames of your unholy hope. Give us salvation from despair. I wish I was still a human. She says as tears begin to fall down her face. Sho begins to say, I can feel the energy of her soul leaving in each of those tears. Haomei then pulls a soul resonance with the evangelist. The saint connected herself with the evangelist completely. It's the countless amount of consciousness of souls becoming one. And as the smoke begins to fade, we start to see Haomei's new form. And she just so happens to have the eye of the Kishin. It's almost as if she's had her own form of soul resonance with it. Her own soul resonance with all of mankind. Mankind's unconscious, becoming one with the evangelist. The saint cries, shedding as many tears as there are creatures born on this planet. And as we read this, we are shown multiple eyes of the Kishin that are crying tears that are made from the souls of humanity. It is very likely that these are not only the souls of mankind, but also the same souls of the infernals that the brigades would slay. The brigades would pray to the evangelist after slaying an infernal, so it is most likely that this is what would happen when these so-called infernals would be sent to the Great Flame. They would just become one with the evangelist's despair, as the rest of mankind did when they all got swallowed by the flames of Adala. Shinra begins to see these tears flow from Haomei. You're not looking too bright there, Despair Saint. Haomei looks up with tears still rolling down her face. Shinra, seeing this, responds, Shinra Bon Showman's here, so quit crying already. This is very reminiscent to the hero-like nature that he displayed when it came to Hibana. Let us perish together, Shinra Bon Showman. Haomei then begins to attack Shinra with the burning black flames of hell. Embrace these black flames. They offer you your salvation. They begin to clash, and Shinra casually slaps down these flames, turning them into flowers. What makes this scene so significant is the fact that this is very reminiscent to Shinra's encounter with Hibana. Hibana's life was messed up by flames, and because of this, she began to lose faith in the flame. The same fire that she thought was once beautiful eventually made her give in to despair. In this very moment, Haomei is trying to use the flames of despair to make Shinra give in to her ideology. Just like with the situation with Hibana, Shinra took these same flames and then showed her just how beautiful they could be again. Shinra takes these same flames of despair and turns them into beautiful flowers. almost as if he's reenacting the same things that he taught Hibana through their fight, showing her that there's still faith in the flame, in that despite being a devil, heroes still do exist in this world. Haumea, in utter shock, reacts to this by saying, "What? Are you turning these flames that I've waited for so long into? How dare you?" And she begins to attack him with even more fire. And what makes this fight so significant is the fact that they're both fighting fire with fire. The flames of faith versus the flames of despair. When there is fire, there is despair, but in that same fire, there will always be faith. Because where despair exists, faith will always also exist. Because they both coexist in the same flame. It is very similar to the ending of Soul Eater, where there is madness, there will always be order. Shinra then flies at Haumei, charging his attack, deliberately missing Haumei, only to hit the flames that are underneath both of their feet, and turning all of those flames of despair into more beautiful flowers. He continues, stomping out the flames of despair, destroying them. But not only is he destroying those said flames, he is also creating with them as well. Please, stop this already. Please, no more sorrow. Take another look, says Shinra. Pretty, isn't it? A light such as this can only be found in a life outside the chain of despair. Do you plan to connect me to such a life? Let's see. What did that thing I saw at Vulcan's workshop look like? I think it was something like this. Not only did Shinra show us how beautiful flames were yet again by turning those same flames into flowers, but he also begins to create the same animals that Vulcan dreamed of bringing back. Through these instances, in Shinra's fight with Haumea, we see how this journey has influenced him and how characters like Vulcan, Hibana, and Benimaru have played a role in Shinra's ideology. Not only to teach him and help him strengthen it, but to show how his ideology has its effect on others, allowing him to actually be somebody else's hero, in the faith that he carries along with being that said hero, as he brings Vulcan's dream to a reality. Brother, that wail just now, isn't that a bit too comical? Hey, come on. I can't remember exactly what it looked like. Shinra Bansho man, you are a devil that continues to create sorrow. Before this wretched stain spreads any further, I must return you to the flames myself. Shinra, unfazed by this attack, stands there, watching as it comes closer towards him. Brother, watch out. That's a divine light that'll destroy anything it hits. You can't survive such a thing. No living being could. No living being could survive this attack. But what Sho doesn't realize is that Shinra is a god, as he catches the attack and throws it behind him. Unimpressed by Haumea's retaliation, he uses that same attack to create an atmosphere. And once the atmosphere is finally developed, it begins to rain, putting out the same black flames that used to engulf the earth. Arthur watches as this battle proceeds, and this chapter ends with, "Let's shed some tears in the rain, Despair Saint."